What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday. Another good night for me. I had a nice run in the NBA, nearly won the shoot around. I played 15 entries and had a good shot. I thought I'd start off just real quick talking about that before we jump into this monster baseball slate. Just because we like to go over some of what we did and what we talked about a little bit on the stuff.
Nice.
It's weird because you have 25 million people in this, and you don't have to get all as crazy different as to have a chance in these things. And you look at even the winner, which was a half a point higher than me, basically had my exact same lineup with KCP versus Jermichael Green. Now I played more KCP than I played Jermichael Green. There was a 300 price difference that I sometimes couldn't get to. In this lineup, I could have gotten there, and I was under the impression that Jermichael Green would be significantly lower owned. I definitely got that wrong, and no big deal. I mean, it's not like I made a huge mistake or anything. This is pretty much as well as you can do it. So I think this is basically the second nuts you can make for the salary. I think this is the absolute nuts that they hit.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I don't think there's another way with the 2-game slate. I was adding everybody's up, and there's just nobody else who you could have fit in. Okay. That would have made any sense. But as we talked about Lillard, but he ended up, Maker chalk. But playing him with LeBron and Booker was not a common 3-man combination, which obviously you needed to win. Monty Morris went nuts. Cam Johnson played really well. It goes back. It's funny because, it's tilting because I had a shot to win for sure. Like, it was a little frustrating, with the last rebound for KCP. But also I could sort of kick myself and say, well, I could have just played KCP and got the 3-way chop for first. I would have been chopping first anyway with this guy. He had the same lineup as me. But obviously 70,000 versus 17.5 is a big difference. So that would have been really nice. But overall, still can't complain about it on $300 entry. That's a monster ROI. So, but just goes to show you, we don't have a ton of NBA stuff to go through for the rest of the year. We're going to have, some 2-game slates and stuff like that. And that's a 2-game slate. And we can find little ways to get different enough to still give ourselves a chance. And part of that was playing I would bet you anything that if you look at most of the lineups, probably, 90% of the Crowder or Cam Johnson lineups doesn't have the other one of those guys.
Who are we kidding? We're playing the showdown at some point.
I'm playing the showdowns today, so I don't know why I'm even saying that. But yeah, Sheets, you had a nice day in baseball, and talk about that, and let's jump into the slate.
Yeah, baseball did pretty nicely. I got different in the hitting, as I said I was going to do. I got some good Arizona stuff. Trolling across the top of the couple of the leaderboards a while before. It's kind of tough to win. But made some money there. Basketball, it's kind of hard to win when you have 70% Austin Rivers, and that's the way that went. And ready to hit it today.
Yep, absolutely.
Just so you guys know, I mean, like, again, for DGen weekend, there's all kinds of crap getting put up there. I put up MMA projections. I put up an MMA video. I actually put up, only because someone asked for in the Discord, I put up my sheets for the LOL slate today, just because I had them. May as well put them up there.
Yeah.
And Pierce is like just all over the NASCAR this weekend with multiple races over there. There's a lot of stuff that you can get on our site now, and it's only going to be free for a little while. So I would
for a limited time only. And by the way, if you guys really don't check out Sheets' stuff, it's really, 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 really awesome. Check out these sheets and check out Pierce's stuff. Obviously, I know that's behind the paywall, but if Sheets as well, you can still check them out for free. This is really a well-organized way of seeing exactly what he's going to do that day, and he's got his own formula, and it works really well. I'm listing out just the plays I make. I've had some people ask me to do that, by the way, for NBA, which I'm going to do on any slate that's more than one game. I'm adding a thing today. We're just
nice.
Okay. So Kenny knows about it. We talked about it, and me and Kenny are gonna. One of our guys we work with. We're gonna work over the weekend a little bit on trying to format some of my stuff and then reformat on the site, getting all the affiliates up there, all that stuff.
And I'm still working. 2 things in the work. I'm still working on getting an MMA expert on to come help with that. And I'm also working on. I'm still threatening to do something horse racing related. I have a possible affiliate that I'm working. Maybe I'd set up some deal with them where it makes it worth my while to do the horse racing stuff.
Beautiful.
We'll see. Okay, you want to?
Yeah, let's jump into it. Why don't we pull up a screen and we'll go game by game. It's a monster.
So we're gonna get off of your screen and we're gonna go into mine. Okay.
Yes. It's a monster slate. I do have like some overall thoughts. I actually think the ownership is going to, I mean, it's going to be spread out as it will be for all the big slates, but it's going to be a little more concentrated today. There's a lot of meh, like kind of spots, and then there's some obvious spots that I think people are going to attack again. I don't think we should worry crazy about ownership unless you're just playing like the A's and Rockies. That's the only way I see it getting, and even that is not going to be like, you have two decent pitchers there. So it's not like an awesome lock feeling or somebody you necessarily want to pick on, but we'll get through as we go. I've got a lot of pitchers on my radar and only like two that I really feel comfortable with. So we'll see what happens. Let's start it off with Miami and Pittsburgh. Also, by the way, I did do some weather research and umpire. I got what I can so far. We're getting more. I'm getting more in. It'll happen throughout the day. Right now, I only have one extreme hitters umpire. It's my only extreme of any kind of umpire, and that's in the Angels game, which we'll get to when we talk about it. And we have Miami and Pittsburgh, though, starting it off. This is a very unexciting game, with the exception of, I think both these pitchers are in play, depending on how you want to build. There's a lot of big bats out there. I think I'd give the edge to Keller, but I'm totally fine with taking Poteet on the other side. But Keller definitely stands out a bit more. I'm not like in love with both of these like guys or anything like that, but we need some savings because the best are very expensive. And they're not like, they're going to give up. I think they're going to give up runs. I don't think you're looking at like a no-hitter spot for these guys. So I am very interested in, mildly interested in both these pitchers, but a little bit of an edge to Keller for me.
Yeah, for the way I have it, I have Keller as much better than Poteet. I actually have Keller as rated at one of the top plays, which is, again, doesn't mean all that much. I mean, I'm only looking to get like 15 fantasy points out of him, you know. And we'll see if I need to even pay up for the hitting. But we'll see. He's ready to be, again, good point per dollar play against a good matchup, you know. He'll get owned. So he's definitely gonna be my player pool. I didn't quite get to as much as Poteet, although I from what I heard, he's actually not bad.
No, he's not.
Yeah, so maybe I'll bump him up kind of manually a little bit. Did you get to any of the hitting? Because I actually did get to actually my first run actually had Pittsburgh as like one of my top stacks.
Just be really careful with this. Like, there's no power on these. I mean, I've talked about this, like, and it made some sense last night. You're looking at just value, but none of the, like, Polanco as a one-off, sure. The better play is Brian Reynolds for sure.
He got the homer last night, Reynolds.
Yeah, he had a big game last night, actually, and I actually played him a good bit at 1%. You will get low ownership on these guys, but what are you really trying to do? How are you going to win a tournament? I mean,
well, you can win a tournament by playing a couple of them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The value if you want to, you know, play Scherzer and Snell, for example. You know,
right? Yeah, for sure. But like, I mean, I just think in general one of the worst hitters parks. I liked attacking Miami, and sure they might go off, but there's just so many other. There's 15 games. There's everybody in baseball playing. To stack Pittsburgh on a 15-game slate from a game theory standpoint just can never be right, in my opinion. I really think so. Without like unless they're in Coors against the worst, I don't know. It's got to be a really weird situation. But I do think they are cheap. Polanco and Reynolds make some sense to me. I can't get to the hitting myself. Same thing with Miami. I certainly could understand the justification for a Corey Dickerson on FanDuel or something like that, but I'm just not going to be able to do any of this stuff today with what else is out there, with the exception of maybe a Reynolds or Polanco.
Okay, Washington and Philly.
Yeah, both pitchers, love both. I think that you can actually play another expensive guy instead of Wheeler. And it's interesting because you can play both these guys together and then you're going to have a very small, very little to spend, but there's plenty of value. I mean, I'm going to go through my value at the end, but there's a ton of it out there. It just depends on what you feel comfortable with and what kind of stacks you want to get in. So I personally love, I mean, Scherzer's obviously the priority. Wheeler is behind him, but I think is also a really, really strong play. And right now I have them as 1, and I actually think I have Wheeler as my number 3 pitcher overall. But my other guy, I might even let ownership dictate a little bit of this. I need to figure out more what I want to do. I guess I won't tease anymore, but Freddie Peralta is the other one I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in that spot because the K upside is there. But Wheeler, I mean, He's just been dominant. So I love both these guys. I'm not going to be able to get to any of the hitting, even though in smaller slates I'd be saying try and pick out a home run against Scherzer or something. But I love these guys both. Scherzer's really expensive. Philly can be patient. That's one thing that worries me a little bit. But in general, it's a watered down Phillies lineup, and it's going to be hard not to want to play a lot of Scherzer.
Yeah, I'm not. Tell me lock is in 10 minutes. Given the information I have, I'm not getting to Wheeler. It would be just Scherzer for me from this game. I have other pitchers I'd rather play.
Pretty rare that Scherzer pitches in a game where he's the underdog. Wheeler is the favorite here.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Doesn't happen very often. The only game when they play the Dodgers usually does that happen.
Well, because the thing is, Scherzer is not necessarily even. I mean, like, you don't really need even the win. You know what I mean? Like, he's just gonna pitch 115 pitches and strike out 10 guys, and you could lose 4-2. You know what I mean? Like, it's
sure, absolutely.
But just guys with that kind of K upside is just and pitch up. Excuse me, K upside. It's like K floor and like pitch and the pitch count floor almost. I mean, it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, what are the chances he puts? Like, they don't have his K prop released yet, but I'm gonna guess it's gonna be around 9.5 or 8. It's somewhere around 9. I don't know, somewhere in that range, because it's a really, really like he's just been awesome. He's simply the best. Like, I still like playing him over every other pitcher in baseball, because even if he does get roughed up, he tends to still put up. Then he's gonna put up 25 for you. You know what I mean? But Zach Wheeler, like the difference. Zach Wheeler's got a 6.5 K prop today. Not that strikeout guy, the upside probably that Peralta has, but I do think it becomes an interesting conversation if you're looking to spend up at both pitchers. I don't think it's very practical to play either of them over Scherzer just at first glance, but I think that playing them in addition to certainly makes some sense.
Okay.
No hitting, right?
I didn't get to any.
Yeah, just too big a slate. So now we've got a bullpen game from Cleveland and Keegan Aiken on the mound for Baltimore. I'm not going to play Keegan Aiken, but there are dumber things that I've done in my life. He's 4.6. There's other guys. If you're going to think about Aiken, I think there's just like other guys. You just play like Matt Shoemaker, even though I would prefer to stack against him. But that's what happens when you're dealing with 5K pitchers. So hitting wise, I do like Cleveland, but I don't think I'm going to get to full stacks because of the pricing. If I'm going to pay up, it's not what I want to do. The one thing you do have here is you get the Owen Miller value, 2.3 value in there. You get Harold Ramirez value, but then you play, Jose Ramirez and whether it's Rosario. I think maybe it would be more of a 3-man stack. The guys I'm mostly looking at, I do have Jose Ramirez as a priority play. I love Cleveland going into Baltimore. Obviously a great hitter's park, especially for righties, which these guys are going to be batting right-handed tonight, or sorry, the switch hitters like Ramirez and Hernandez will be. Hernandez is too expensive on DraftKings for me to ever get to at 5.2 on these kind of slates. But both Ramirez's, Harold and Jose, and then Owen Miller is my third one. I like all those guys quite a bit.
Aiken's, again, he's going to rate as an okay point per dollar play. I'd rather find the 1,000 for Keller if I'm going to do that, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I like Cleveland a little bit on FanDuel, actually. I didn't quite get to them on DraftKings in my top 10, but I did get to them on FanDuel as like in my top 5. Maybe they're cheaper over there.
Yeah, Hernandez.
Everybody's cheaper over there. Maybe relatively they're cheaper over there. Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Baltimore, I think, is actually going to be completely overlooked. It's a bullpen game, and their lineup isn't great. But if you're going to talk about value, take the team with the higher run total, the better hitters park. That's what I would do. And I would play DJ Stewart again. I would play Santander. This is much better than Pittsburgh to me, especially because the power upside, and they're cheap again, too. Freddie Galvis, and then Mullins and Mancini are my favorites here. But I again, not full stack for me mostly. I'm looking at maybe a one-off for Stewart, maybe a 2-off with Stewart and Santander, maybe a 2-man with Stewart and Galvis. I'm not looking to fully stack Baltimore here. They're not, again, 15-game slate. It's not the kind of team I really want to stack.
Boston Yankees. I like the Yankees a little bit. Not top 5, but pretty close. I'd rather pay $4,600 for Stanton than $5,600 for Judge or whatever that is. I think LeMahieu's ridiculously cheap at $4,100. I think that I got Urshela here at $3,600. These are my three main ones that I looked at from, just a price perspective. I mean, you want to put Judge in, I'm certainly not going to, argue with you. And then I don't know, Frazier makes the lineup. He's 2,400. I didn't quite get to either of the pitching, and I didn't get to Boston at the hitting.
Yeah, the problem with the Yankees for me is that, and I do like them actually here, first off, and I think that Boston, a couple guys stand out. Well, JD Martinez is way too cheap at 4,900. Just way too cheap. The other one,
just so you guys know, there is some sneaky thunderstorm risk, by the way, around here.
Yeah, it's from what I looked at, it looked like it was going to be okay. That it was going to rain beforehand, it'll be gone by the game. Yeah. What I thought, but I if anything changes, we'll keep an eye on that, obviously. Yeah. Alex Verdugo is 3,300. I think that's a really good value saver. That's just way too cheap. It's Yankee Stadium. Yeah. It's great hitting weather too that they're projected today.
Very humid today.
Yeah, and the Yankees it's as it was one-offs. It always feels weird to play like a one-off for Urshela on a big slate. But, he did it at a home run the other day. It's been a little while. He's really cheap. Odor, it sort of makes me want to stack. LeMahieu playing as a one-off doesn't really make sense at first or third because he doesn't really have the power in general. You want to, has to do multiple actions and hasn't put up more than 10 fantasy points in like 2.5 weeks or something. So the Yankees have been the dud of a lot of the season because they strike out so much. They oddly are walking a little bit less than they usually do. And then we haven't had the same power upside that we've seen from them in the past, but I still have them as a stack that I'm considering fairly seriously. If there was a one-off I would take, it would probably be Stanton. He has looked terrible since coming back, but it's still 4.6 for Stanton. And if you can get up to Judge, I think he's a really good way to get different on this slate. Like, I don't think people are going to play him at that price. So those are my favorites, but it's probably going to be mostly stack or fade for me because of the nature of the type of hitters they have, which is the opposite of what it used to be with them. They used to be all power, and they still have that, but like Urshela, Torres, and LeMahieu haven't been the same power guys they used to be. Actually, Odor is a guy who I feel like a little bit interested in. I also think that just watch how the lineup shakes out. If Clint Frazier bats anywhere else in the order, it might make the stack a little more tempting because he's 2.4. And he actually can hit the ball, unlike Brett Gardner. So, all right, you want to go Houston, Toronto?
Yeah, kind of a pass for me actually. If anything, I would take shots at maybe some Houston guys, but not really. You know what I mean? Like Ryu's a really, really good pitcher. I didn't get to Toronto really. I'm sure if we hunt, we could find them some one-offs, but if anything, maybe again a little bit of Houston. I think Alvarez is really cheap at 3,800. But again, Ryu's a really, really good pitcher. You don't want to go crazy with this.
Yeah, I think you want to try and play some righties against Greinke. The problem is the prices, but then you get to Bo Bichette. Nothing wrong with his price. 4,500, way too cheap. Zach Greinke, as I keep pointing out, is not a guy who you play lefties against. He's a guy you play righties against at this point of his career. That's the way he's converted. Almost all of the power he's given up has been to righties for the last couple of years. So Bo Bichette at 4,500 is let's go. And Vladimir Guerrero at 5,500 even I think is a fair price for one of the three best hitters in baseball. I do want to point out, like, whenever these young guys come up, we've got to like stay on top of it because all of the best players in baseball are the young guys. Look at the guys who lead the league in home run right now. I don't think any of them are older than 23 or 24. Yeah. And these guys come up more ready than the actual previous generation of major leaguers. They're locked and ready to go. So we want to kind of get ahead of the trend when they come up. And I'll get into that in the Minnesota game in a few minutes, probably a few minutes. But I do think that Greinke against look, if this game was being played at Coors, we would be saying, hey, we should be all over this game and everything. We'll be playing these guys and you got Toronto at Coors. Well, Toronto gets to play at Coors every night. Yep. So Greinke is a guy who I never used to want to pick on because he was so good at limiting damage. That just isn't the case anymore. He's giving up lots of hard contact, lots of power. His strikeouts are down. Still, I think a decent enough real life pitcher, the guy I'd want on my team in real life. But it does have sneaky weird upside in spots where you don't think he'll get there. But I just am personally, I'm leaning to try and pick out one of the bats, and mostly it's going to be Bichette or Guerrero against him. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in a giant field tournament, if a Toronto stack would maybe a 4-man would take something down, because there's so much power, and I just want to keep playing guys in that stadium. I don't think everyone realizes exactly how great of a hitter's park that is there, and I'm curious about the umpire information, which we'll probably have later.
The Dodgers and the Braves. You have this could be a good like baseball game, in the playoffs. You know, like
game, and 7-game series that took us to to go to the World Series last year.
Yeah, I mean Urias and Ian Anderson. I mean, these are two good pitchers. They're both way too expensive for me to play today, especially given the matchups against two really good hitting teams. You have two really good baseball teams. If I was going to go with either of the hitting, I would play the Dodgers. And they look pretty good actually. I don't know if they're going to be my main team or anything like that, but I'll play the usual guys now. I'll play now the usual. I get Cody Bellinger back. We get Muncy as a lefty. I'll play him. Maybe Seager will get back one of these days, but not yet. So I can recommend some Dodgers here.
Yeah, I like Bellinger as a one-off. I like Muncy as a one-off, but it just doesn't feel like as a slate where I'm going to end up really actually playing them, to be honest. Anderson can get wild, and this is not the kind of team you want to get wild against. Maybe Gavin Lux at 3.8, but it just feels like great hitting conditions in Atlanta, by the way. Awesome hitting conditions. But Anderson's, if he gets wild, there is a chance that there's a blow-up game, and maybe on a small slate, I'd be all over the Dodgers here. I just can't get behind it on this giant slate. But I do think that, a couple of these bats, even Mookie too, they're all fine, but I don't think that they're going to be the guys we want to prioritize by the end of the day. And I don't think I'm taking any Atlanta bats except for Acuna against Urias, and I will play Acuna every single day. The best hitter in baseball, the best DFS player in baseball. I'm just going to always play him. So that's where I'm at. Urias is great, but I don't care about Acuna's price. I just think the upside for him is it's like we see with Tatis every night. I mean, these guys, it's home run or stolen base or both every night, it feels like. All right. You want to talk about Tampa Bay and Texas?
No.
I do.
I don't really have much interest in this. What's this deal with Kyle Gibson? He's back from the injured list. It doesn't matter. I mean, I have no interest in this game.
I think Kyle Gibson's fine. I really do. And he's actually been like really consistent in real life this year and pitched extremely well. Like, I think he's got a quality start in like all of his starts except for the first one of the season. It's pretty awesome. I mean, but you see the lack of fantasy production along with that, and it doesn't make you feel so great. At the same time, these matchups are a lot tougher for K's than the Tampa Bay matchup is. He put up 20 the last time they played, but the real guy here I'm looking at is Fleming. I think Fleming is probably like Keller and Fleming. I think a lot of people, I personally think Fleming is probably, I don't know, they're close for me.
Yeah?
Texas is terrible. So Fleming is basically.
You got to pause this a sec. Sorry about this.
So talking about Fleming and
I didn't really even take a look at him. I guess I got to do a little dive on him.
Yeah, I mean, Texas.
I really didn't get to him at all. He's like my 13th best pitcher.
So Texas has a 3.7 run total against a lefty that literally no lefties ever hit at all.
Okay.
And they don't have any righties. They've got 2 righties, to be afraid of in their lineup. Solak and Adolis Garcia. I'm completely on board with playing Fleming. He doesn't probably have the leash that other guys do, but he's 6K. And like, if we're talking about Keller, I think Fleming would actually rate ahead of Keller for me at first glance. Keller does get the National League side of things, so that gives him a little bit of a boost. But and the matchup is great, but so is this. This is an absolutely awesome matchup. So I definitely have some interest in Fleming here.
Okay.
All right, let's move over to Arizona, Milwaukee. Freddie Peralta, I think would make sense to do the double spend up with. He and Wheeler I have as like very, 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 very close. And I think Freddie Peralta is going to be popular today. Actually, I think people are going to see this K prop. He's got a full. He's projected for 7.5 strikeouts. That's pretty damn good. Got a neutral umpire with Joe West. Arizona's offense is not something that we should be afraid of. There's plenty of Ks in there. It's a good hitting environment in general in Milwaukee, but I am completely okay with playing Peralta. And then one thing people are going to do again, I think today, is you can use this cheap Milwaukee stack as an easy way to pay up for both your pitchers. The only guy who's expensive really is the Yelich, and you get guys like Jackie Bradley Jr. at 2.6, Vogelbach at 2.6, Shaw's 3.2. I don't love Shaw, like he hasn't been hitting the ball. Neither has Bradley until last night. He hit a home run. Narvaez 3.6, Garcia 3.9. These guys are all I think strong plays. I have no problem picking on Peacock. Maybe the lineup's coming back together now that Yelich is healthy, and I do have Yelich on his own as a priority play anyway, as a priority spend up. But it's the usual cast of other characters for them.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I like Milwaukee as a top stack. Again, we'll see where ownership kind of comes in on them. I think they're going to be, well, at first thought they don't look all that popular, but we'll just see about that. Like you said, they're pretty easy to get to, and I mean, you put Vogelbach at 2,600. You know what I mean? Like it's
right.
It makes it all work.
It is going to be hard though. Like, I mean, it is bad. Like, I do think losing Colton Wong is like a blow to the stack in general. Like,
that's true.
You do get the cheaper guys like Bradley leading off now probably versus batting eighth.
Yeah. So that's, I think it's going to be pretty chalky, but we'll see. But I like them, at least, on just, without factoring that in yet. And right now, if I had to, I would not probably play Peralta in my main lineup right now, just because I'm really kind of into what I want to do there. But certainly he's a very legitimate, I would say, pivot off of Scherzer, because you could try to play them both, obviously. But I would, he's just got wildly crazy upside. You know what I mean? Like when he's humming, you just can't hit him like ever. So if he's like, not even if he's hitting the corners, it's like over. And he gets a lot of swings out of the strike zone. You know what I mean? Also, so it's he's certainly and it's so funny. I was listening to some of the Arizona game because I was had action on it last night, and the Arizona announcers, they were just totally whining about how the pitchers they were going to have to go against like in a row with like Peralta and Woodruff and Burns. You know what I mean? Like they were going to get all of them. So it's a lot of fun going against these Milwaukee pitchers and starting with this one. So that's I pretty much agree with you. I'm not really getting much Arizona today. That's about it.
All right, let's move on to Detroit and Chicago. Well, we got sort of like kind of a combination of both things from the White Sox. They had 3 or 4 home runs. I think they had 3. I know they tried to steal some bases, it didn't work. But then Mize was also good yesterday, so it was kind of one of those weird situations. This is a spot where I think if we're talking about spending down at pitcher, I know it's like their strikeouts are gross and doesn't feel like there's the upside, but he's 6.8. How much upside do we really need for a real life pitcher against Detroit? Former Cy Young winner and a guy who actually is going to pitch, 5 or 6 innings. Hopefully he gets those 3 Ks up to 5 or 6. And all of a sudden you could, get the win and you're looking at 20 potential fantasy points. There's a route there. He deserves to be in the conversation with the Kellers and the Flemings for no other reason than the leash being longer. So that's where I am with that. I'm not going to take any bets from Detroit. It just doesn't give up enough hard contact. And I mildly like the White Sox, but mostly, I just like Tim Anderson and Abreu. I'm sorry, Tim Anderson and Moncada with Abreu as well. But I don't think I'm not like a stack, but I think each of those guys are interesting, and I don't think I'm gonna be fully stacking the White Sox today.
Yeah, I'm passing. This game is a pass for me. We can move on.
Yeah, Turnbull's been pretty good, by the way, and I'm just looking at some.
He always is kind of pretty good.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, everybody used to pick on him, and now it's like gone the other way, where everyone's trying to find a way to play him. It's always funny when that happens. And the thing why you don't want to go against him too much is, like, this guy has given up 1 home run this season. Like, he keeps the ball on the ground. That's what he does. As opposed to some of the guys in our next game.
Yeah.
So segueing into another game that I expect to be pretty popular, you have low strikeout pitchers against teams that, well, against a team with Minnesota side, that their problem is they strike out. When you get a low strikeout pitcher against this Minnesota team, everybody wants to jump on Minnesota against the lefties, which for good reason, because their historic numbers and stuff, their career numbers against lefties. But I'm just going to say, like, you got a guy who can't throw strikes to a team that's their only problem. It's hard not to have some interest in Minnesota here. And you've got Trevor Larnich, who's one of my favorite plays on the whole slate. You're just going to keep betting on the young talent, like I was talking about, until it comes through. And then soon he'll be 4K, 5K, and then so on. Same thing that happened already with Kirilloff, who I also like a lot here in this matchup. Donaldson coming off the 2 home run game. The fact that he's just swinging the bat well again, just even for a night, is plenty to get me back on board Josh Donaldson. I think he's like one of the more underrated hitters over the past 15 years. He's been just absolutely, he's a terrific hitter. He used to give all that great Blue Jays team. He was the guy out there teaching, giving them pointers after every batting practice and stuff. And if he found his swing again, we're getting him at a discount. So Donaldson, Kirilloff, Larnich, you want to stay away from guys like Rortford. To me, I know he's like, I've watched this guy hit, and I just haven't seen him come within 6 inches of hitting a pitch. I'm not saying he can't hit. I'm just saying it's not the same as playing Jeffers at 2K, in my opinion. I like Jeffers better. So Nelson Cruz would be the other one you could add to the stack, obviously, but he's been really bad overall for this last couple months. And then you've got another prospect in Nick Gordon down at the bottom at 2.6. So a lot of ways to do the stack here. But I do think that this is definitely a stack I'm looking at. Probably, again, leaning more towards 3 or 4 man stack, because Keller is somehow like decent enough at not, at going 5-6 innings without giving up 4 home runs. Like, he just does that consistently without having that huge blow up spot. But I do certainly like them still, and it's probably going to be a 3 or 4 man from that side. On the other side, again, so Shoemaker, I think, is in play at 5.1. It's just cheap enough. If we're going to consider these other guys, another guy with a leash, another guy who doesn't have to do all that much to pay off his salary, and he's 5.1. So if we're going to consider Keller, we should be considering, him. And 3 out of his last 4 starts, he's gotten at least 6 innings, 2 quality starts in that time. He did just pitch against this team and didn't do anything really. The thing we can try and target against him, though, as well, and I think we really want to. I think will keep a little bit of the lower ownership on Milwaukee, because Hunter Dozier, my guy last night, got me a home run. Jorge Soler as a cheapo. Santana's still affordable. You've got the greatest players in baseball history in Salvador Perez and Whit Merrifield. Mix in some Benintendi. There's a lot to like here, and like Shoemaker, the fact that he gives up power and you can run on him, sign me up. So I'm interested in this stack. I'm interested in all those guys, and I think you have multiple routes of getting there. Even if they could score 6 runs and get there, because you might get 3 stolen bases or something like that mixed in. You know what I mean? So that's basically an extra home run. So I'm very interested in the KC side of this.
Yeah, I have more interest in the KC side, just given prices and stuff, than the Minnesota side. Although, like you said, if I play the Minnesotas, I think I'm with you. I'll probably do not a full, maybe like a 3-man or something like that. One thing, I don't know if the Celestino he might get benched. Celestino, he committed 2 errors on the same play as an outfielder last night. It's kind of tough to do. Yeah, tough to do. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get to those 2 pitchers just for lack of enough lineups to do it. And it's like a little weird, again, I'm not saying you have to play this, and obviously I'm not suggesting this lineup is what you have to do. But you put in, like, let's say you could double spend up for pitcher now on DraftKings, like easier than you used to be able to,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much you're going to need to pay down for pitching. Unless you really, really like one of these. So, like, if you're going to want to play like Oakland, sure. But if you do that, then you want to, then also you want to pay down for pitchers that people aren't going to play, I guess. But yeah, I like Minnesota a little bit. I like KC a little bit more. But I think they are both in play.
Fair enough. All right, next game. Sorry, let me grab my screen. It's taking, for some reason, going real slow this morning. Cincy St. Louis.
Don't do it. Just nobody do it. Please don't. Don't play Luis Castillo.
I'm absolutely gonna do it. I don't care. No, it doesn't matter. I play tournaments, man. I'm, this guy.
Dude, I played him every freaking slate this whole season.
Well, as bad
as you barely get out of the second inning, any slate.
He's gone 5 innings in all of the last 3 starts of his. He struck out 11 guys 2 starts ago. That's against the Giants, who don't strike out. If things work out in his favor, you're getting an unowned guy who could put up the ceiling. Like he literally could end up being one of the highest scoring pitchers on the slate, maybe in the top 3 or 4, if things break right. I just am not buying that everything's done yet. I just can't. And even when I started to try to buy it, then he goes and strikes out 11 Giants. Like, it's confusing what's happening to me with him. I know that there's some serious issues, but at 7.3, when we're talking about it, like I'm going to have him in my mix. Now, I'm not saying I'm prioritizing him. I'm just saying that he is a guy who.
FYI, he is my 5th ranked pitcher. I just.
Oh my God, your 5th ranked pitcher, and this is what you're saying?
Yeah.
such a you move, man. It's hilarious. And I mean, at the same time, like, if you want to play hitters against him, hey, we can go ahead and do that. I just am having trouble on this slate getting to either of these stacks.
You don't like the Cincinnati side?
I think Cincinnati is almost always a mistake. It's like paying for Coors hitters outside of Coors.
Okay.
Like, you're playing in that tiny little stadium. The difference is they have gotten cheaper, but it's partially because they haven't hit the ball as well. I do think Tyler Stevenson and Eugenio Suarez stand out as well. I mean, Castellanos, Winker, but it's pricing we're looking at. This team has a 3.9 run total. You know what I mean? Like, what exactly are we trying to jump all over? I don't know. And the one thing about Kim is, like, I don't even know yet what he is. Like, right. I'm not sure that he's bad. I don't know.
I don't think he is bad, actually.
I think he's a better real life pitcher than he'll ever be for fantasy, but I don't know if he's bad. And right. I do think Eugenio Suarez is a priority play at his price. I sort of forgot on DraftKings that he was so cheap, 3.7, and just a career lefty killer. So he'd be my favorite, but he and Tyler Stevenson, who should be batting cleanup, and you can use a catcher spot on him at 2.6. Those would be the ones, but I don't want to stack them fully.
Okay.
But you're into the stack a little?
A little bit. I mean, they're like, 1, 2, like they're in the second to third tier. They're all right.
I do think the Suarez play is that, I'm glad you reminded me about at least that, because Suarez and even Castellanos too, but I just don't think I'm going to use an extra outfield spot on him. I do think Suarez, he doesn't have the multi-position eligibility anymore, which is always nice when he does, and Stevenson. But also you do have Kyle Farmer at 2.1 also at shortstop. I don't know. Maybe it just accidentally turns into like a mini stack, but those kind of spots are like the 3 or 4 man. Like, I don't know if I want to go 5-man or anything like that, because I don't want to use that many positions, but they are so cheap. Maybe I don't know, maybe a little 3-man with Stevenson, Suarez, and Farmer I could get behind. That's about as far as I'd go.
So this is our theory, right? So Oakland, Colorado, there's 30 teams playing to 30, something like that. Either 28 or 30. There are 30 teams playing tonight. If Oakland's going to be, going to get the ownership of 1/5 of them, they're going to be 20% owned. You just are supposed to not play them, right?
Especially against a pretty decent pitcher who's used to pitching at Coors.
Right. I mean,
let's look at John Gray real quick, what he's done at home this year. Okay, just real quick. Arizona, 6 innings, 3 runs. I mean, we got quality starts left and right from him at home. The only ones where he didn't were San Diego. And I was in San Diego. It's at home. He's been pitching really well. He's been look, all of his home games have been basically dynamite. He's been 20 plus fantasy points. Now, I'm not talking about playing him, but that gives you an idea of, like,
we're just talking about fading the freaking 20% owned stack against him. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, still, having said all of this stuff, I do think that Matt Olson and Seth Brown should be priority plays if you're playing cash. You got 3.4 Seth Brown in Colorado. I don't know that everyone's going to fully stack this as much as you think they are. Maybe they will. If they don't, jump on it. If they do, I agree. You want to stay away from the fade mostly, but I do still like Brown, Olsen, especially. Chapman's further down in the order and expensive. I think he'll get a little bit overlooked compared to this, outside of 5-man stacks. Sean Murphy. I like all of these guys a lot. I just, I agree with you. You don't necessarily want to be, we got 30 teams, and why would we want to play all of the chalk?
You like the Colorado side at all?
The problem is the A's are a good offense that plays in a bad hitter's park. This is a bigger upgrade for them than it is anything. I'm sort of surprised at Colorado's run total today.
Okay.
Because we've seen them recently, like in the mid 4s, low 5s, but those were against like terrible pitchers, even at home. And then you've got Montas, who's pretty good.
Yeah, sure.
I would consider, sounds crazy. I actually was trying to consider if I could play Montas on FanDuel. If Montas was like 7,500 today, I would absolutely be taking some shots on him. But he's 9K still, so or was he 9? He's 9, right? Yeah. Again, if you are going to play Colorado, play McMahon, play Tapia, play Diaz, play Fuentes. They're cheap. I mean, they're cheap enough. They're not going to be. I don't think they're going to be owned that much. And then CJ Cron. So I actually think that Colorado is like an actually semi-low or lower than people. You think the whole game will be owned, but really Montas is pretty good. And maybe I don't want to full stack Colorado, but I do like McMahon as a one-off, and I like Jonathan Daza. Sorry, I keep saying Diaz. Daza is one of the better values on the slate at 3K, in my opinion. There's a lot of value, even in these Colorado games. That's the thing. So before we think we need to spend up for everybody, maybe we don't. So,
I mean, you lock the slate now. Ohtani's probably my favorite SP2. That's, I guess, one of the reasons why I just rather play him than, I'd rather play him than Castillo. I'd rather play him than pretty much everybody. So that's my first look at the Angels Seattle game. Is I really like Ohtani a lot. I also like the Angels as a secondary, as a stack on DraftKings, and also a little bit on FanDuel. And with that said, kind of down the list, I will, I might get to a little bit of Seattle also, but I think Ohtani's really, really strong.
So I'm just going to say to everybody who thinks Ohtani's the obvious chalk today, you have one of the most extreme hitters umpires in baseball. Okay. You've got a guy who is in, I think, 3 of his 8 starts, just barely scratched 20 fantasy points twice and then hit 30 once. Mostly is in the 12 to 15 fantasy point range. Doesn't have a leash on a 15-game slate. And I still kind of like him too, because it's just Seattle and he's good, and the strikeouts could be there, but he's not going to be a guy I think you should be playing in a lot of GPPs in general on these big slates. I think it's just mathematically wrong. Like, his upside has such a narrow window. He basically can't give up anything. Maybe that'll happen tonight. But I just wanted to throw that out there. But he is not that much more expensive than other guys I mentioned who he's better than, like Keuchel. So yeah, he's on my list for sure right now. He's probably going to be 30+% owned, maybe higher. I don't know at that ownership that it's optimal to make him a priority in your GPPs. Now, you can't always get different with bats and everything, but to take a low, I don't want to say low upside, because his talent has upside. I just don't see him out there throwing a million pitches hardly ever. And then when he does, it's usually like when he does pitch deep into games, it's usually games where he's not striking anybody out, which he seems to be pitching more to contact lately. His last 2 starts, 12 fantasy points and 12 fantasy points, and they were both solid. Well, no, one was a solid real life start, but didn't even make it out of the 5th inning in that game against Cleveland, and wasn't really getting hit up. Just be aware, if you play Ohtani at chalk, he could come out in the 4th inning and it wouldn't be surprising. He could get scratched. He could get a million things could happen. So make sure you're looking at your thing at 9:30, because I think about half the times he's been scheduled to pitch this year, he hasn't pitched.
Yeah, I didn't have him as such a chalky play at first look, but again, this is really, really early.
Yeah, I think he's the cash. I think he's the number one. He could end up being the highest owned player or this pitcher on the slate, but I don't think so, because I think enough people will do what I'm doing and will think the way that I'm thinking. But for cash, I would expect him to be the natural cash SP.
And the other thing is, by the way, I mean, make no mistake. I mean, Luis Castillo is a better pitcher than Shohei Ohtani right now.
I don't know about that anymore. I don't know if I agree.
No, Ohtani's still kind of a joke. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
I mean, he's actually really a pitcher. I mean, honestly.
He throws 103 miles an hour and is like one of the best K rates in baseball.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, he's been great.
I'm predicting that within 2 years, he's not pitching.
He may not be pitching, but that's only because, I mean, I don't know. It's not like it's like some parlor act. Like, he is their whole team, you know?
We'll see.
I mean, I don't know what you want from the guy. He's got, what has he done here?
I want him to get there as chalk tonight.
That's what you want. Okay, fair enough. That answers the question.
But let him get there against Seattle. All right. Anyway, what about you like any of the hitting? You like the Angels?
Like the Angels a lot. Pretty good hitting weather out there and for LA games. And I don't like that we can't use Ohtani. Assuming he does actually make the lineup. But Jared Walsh, Anthony Rendon, Justin Upton, simple as that. Love all three of those guys.
He's only 4K Rendon, huh?
I know he struggled this year, but I mean, it's still, I'm not ready to give up on him yet. I can't quit him yet. Taylor Ward, maybe if you mix him in, depending on where he's hitting the lineup, if he's in the lineup. I don't know what they're going to do with that Ohtani. I assume he's going to hit. Maybe he won't. We'll see what happens. But the Angels, this is a good spot against, you've got a terrible starting pitcher, if you want to call him that. Really is going to be a bullpen game a little bit. And you've got a lousy bullpen with a great hitter's umpire against a cheap offense in good hitting weather. So interested in all things.
You like anything from the Cubs game or no?
No, it feels like such an easy, just forget about it on this slate thing. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw a little bit of fireworks from one of these offenses, but I'm not paying these prices. And the only guy I'll give a little shout out to that people don't maybe realize how good he's been this year, and I said it again yesterday on our show, is that's Brandon Crawford. Another home run last night. I believe he's got, what has he got this year? Like 10 or 11 home runs, which is kind of crazy for him. 3.7 is reasonable. He's the only guy I had on my list, but I'm really not going to get to anything, I don't think.
What are you doing with Snell?
I do. Look, the Snell things are really tough, man, because on big slates, your natural thing would be like, okay, this can't be right, can it? Like, doesn't always go that deep. His only one real start that, is a top ace kind of start was against Colorado at home. This is the Mets at home, though. Like, this Mets team, and this is the lowest projected run total on the entire slate. So I've got to have some interest in him. I got to have some interest in him, and I think he's going to be really popular. I'm happy to try and find other things to do, but I do, as of right now, have Snell as one of my plays. And then I am completely baffled by this run line for San Diego. I will take an over on them in this whole game. Their former guy, Joey Lucchesi.
Yeah.
My thing about that, I don't understand why the run total is as low as it is for San Diego. And that is my sneaky late game hammer thing, is to stack San Diego. They're really expensive, but you can mix in, you got some medium guys. If Pham is back in the lineup, if Myers is in, Myers will be in. Machado and Tatis are expensive. I like that 4-man. I don't want to get too much more involved than just those 4, but I do think that those guys are really interesting to me. Lucchesi, it's not that I think he's bad. For one thing is he doesn't pitch very long.
Okay.
And you've got a very what's been a good bullpen, but nothing I'm afraid, no arms that I'm afraid of in the bullpen. He hasn't pitched more than 4 innings in a game this year, Lucchesi. Amazingly put up 24 fantasy points in 4 innings in one of those games against Miami. But it's not just trying to pick on Lucchesi with the righties here. It's just, I think it's, by the way, great hitting conditions for San Diego for a game. It's much, much better than usual. As it warms up, you're going to hear all these great pitchers parks are going to become much, much better hitters parks than they usually are as it gets hotter. And San Diego strikes that for me. But Tatis and Machado each as one-offs, Myers as well, and then Myers and Pham if you want to complete a little stack. I do think getting some Padres in makes a lot of sense, and those would be my favorites.
Yeah, I'll probably end up playing Snell. I don't know.
Yeah, I have San Diego as my last of my stacks here. So, all right, you want to run through it?
Yeah.
All right. You want me to start?
I'll go. So pitching right now, I have Scherzer at the top, then Snell, Keller, Ohtani, my next group. And then below that right now, I have Castillo, Peralta, and Wheeler. As far as stats go, Oakland's the top stack, but we ought to fade them for ownership. Then I talked about Pittsburgh and Milwaukee a little bit, but Milwaukee obviously has got more upside than Pittsburgh. Then KC, Cincinnati, and the Angels, and a whole bunch of other stuff like Yankees, Astros. I mean, it's a big slate. You can play a lot of teams. On FanDuel, I liked Snell, Scherzer, and Peralta, all three of them. Snell obviously is a little shaky with the 6 innings. Scherzer is like a lock for the 6 innings. FanDuel hitting Oakland, Milwaukee, KC, and a little bit of Cleveland and the Angels.
Oh, nice. Okay, so my favorite pitchers are in order. Scherzer for the spend ups. Scherzer, Peralta, Snell, Wheeler. Wheeler, Snell. But that's if you can spend up, if you can afford to. The spend downs, I have it really close between Keller, Fleming at the very spend down. And then the next tier, I have Ohtani ahead of Castillo barely, but I think I might. I'm still flirting with that one. And those are the guys I'm using right now. For my stacks, I like the KC, Minnesota, Milwaukee, more of a mini stack for Milwaukee, but I do like them. Oakland and Colorado, the Angels and San Diego, with my favorite being outside of Oakland, making the most sense, even though I just made a good case for why they shouldn't be. I do think that the Minnesota KC game entirely strikes me. So I'm just that's probably where I end up going to. It's weird to not have more stacks that I'm just like and love, and I need to get this stack. And honestly, it's kind of weird. There's not more 5-run totals. And the one thing I may come back to is playing some of these Yankees that I didn't mention in my stacks, and some of the Toronto mini.
Big ass slate.
Yep.
I'm probably not going to be around for the live.
Okay.
I'll do my best, but probably not. I'll let you know for sure later.
Okay.
And, good luck, everybody.
Yeah, good luck, everybody. And I'll post my plays on our site right now. So we'll see you at the top of the leaderboard tonight. Let's have another good night, guys.